right, welcome to our Evidence-Based Practice Network for March. We're so excited to be joined by Kim Walker and her partner teacher, Renee Richardson from Nexton Elementary in the Berkeley County School District. I was just saying how they truly are master teachers, and I've had the opportunity to observe both of them in the classroom, and so we're really in for a treat today as they talk about the evidence-based practice of opportunities to respond. I'm Jenny Saunders. I'm the program coordinator for the Academic Alliance. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Miss Walker and Miss Richardson.
Right. So, welcome to March Madness, where we will be your head coaches for to guide you through the opportunities to respond and providing corrective feedback during each game or lesson. So, I'm Kimberly Walker. I've been teaching for 30 years. I did 21 years in self-contained, and then the rest of my time has been spent at Resource, and I've been at Nexton for the last 7 years. And Ms. Richardson.
So I'll call myself the assistant coach.
Actually, Michael Jordan
Okay.
of Opportunities to Respond.
All right. I'm Renee Richardson. This is my 18th year of teaching. I started at Nexton about 4 years ago. I've been in the classroom. I really enjoy it. I love working with Kim, and yeah, I'm not as fancy as I don't have all these fancy things that you've done, but I've just been in general ed. I've taught sixth grade, first grade, second grade, fourth grade. Fourth grade's the best grade, by the way. But yeah.
Okay. So yes, definitely the Michael Jordan of Opportunities to Respond and Corrective Feedback. She's also our Nexton Teacher of the Year. So yay, you. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be using our playbook of the high leverage practices for inclusive classrooms. This is our playbook. So this is what we're going to be using. It has all the plays you're going to need to increase your opportunities to respond and providing your corrective feedback. So definitely want to do that so you can have a championship classroom. Where all of your players are involved, we get them off the bench right into center court and keep that ball moving. All right. So we all know what an engaged learner looks like and sounds like. So if you've ever had those Ferris Bueller moments, have you ever had those in your classroom?
100 times a
day. More than what we would
Yeah.
like to admit, for sure. But we want our students to analyze the problems, develop their strategies, organize, going from simple to complex, accessing their background knowledge and apply it, and really hustling and self-regulating, and also just to kind of reflect and review that film of their game to see if their goals have been met. So we're going to kind of refer to OTR. So OTR are opportunities to respond. So it's basically the teacher asking a question or giving a task. And it just really gives teachers a quick way to monitor progress. So why do we want our kids to have multiple opportunities to respond? We want to, make sure it increases academic success. So especially like in reading, the percentage of words read, it decreases the number of words read incorrectly and increases the words read correctly. For math, it increases the percentage of math problems done correctly. Kids do not have a time to misbehave. If you have your pacing good, then there's no time for misbehavior at all. Now, is that always perfect? No, but for the majority of the time.
Yeah. And if you continue to just have them talking or in the conversation, a math conversation or reading conversation, talking about what you're comprehending from a story or just posing any kind of question that has to do with whatever the subject matter is, you're constantly giving them time to speak about it. So if they do see something on a test, on a worksheet, on something, it's something they've already seen, something they've talked about, and they're constantly hearing it. They don't have that downtime to just sit there and fiddle with whatever else that they're fiddling with. That's true. It's constant. It's constantly in their language, embedded in their language, because they're constantly talking about it.
Yeah. And then when they are talking about it, when they do get something wrong, it gives you an opportunity to reteach that.
Yep.
And also identify those lower performing students. Like in SPED, those are my kids, but in Gen Ed, you have a lot more students. So it's a little bit more difficult to identify those. But if you give those multiple opportunities, then you're more likely to, address those.
Right. And if it just becomes kind of like a norm in the classroom, I'm not saying doing it every second of the day from morning to the afternoon, but making it a norm in the classroom, it's going to run pretty smoothly, and you're not going to have as many behavior issues. Are you going to? Yes, but not as, I don't think as many. I mean, I don't run into that very often.
Yeah.
And they don't have time to mess around.
Exactly. Exactly. So the different types of OTR. So the starting lineup. So you have your your technology. So that's like GimKit. I love GimKit, but I don't like the fact that you can only have 5 players at a time for that trust no one kind of thing. The kids love that, but that's an opportunity for them to work with partners as well. Kahoot, Blookit, Quizlet, Quizzes, Boom Cards, Wordwall.net. Those are all great technological kind of ways to get all kids to respond. Gestures like raising their hand. I always say stand up if or snap or whistle. Usually here I'm trying to whistle. That's funny.
Right.
And then also response cards. So this is an example of a response card. We'll kind of go over that a little bit later on. As far as, gesturing and things like that. Also, partner work, turn and talk. So Renee is going to really talk about that a little bit later on. And also like the writing responses, like using whiteboards, guided notes, independent practice. So it's really important that you plan for which type of OTR you're going to be doing. I know I was just telling Renee or whatever, I have to script everything out. So I have to really plan for what I'm going to do. And like, am I going to have them write on whiteboards? Am I going to have them hold response cards up or things like that?
Yeah. And we did talk about this a little bit just the other day too. And if you don't, you have to script it out. You have to plan ahead. You can't just go in there cold and expect everything to fall into place. Because then, I mean, it's going to affect your lesson. It's going to affect your kids. And it's honestly going to affect you as far as what you feel about the curriculum that you're teaching or what you're doing at that. I didn't like that lesson. Well, you didn't plan for it. So maybe it would have gone better if you do plan. So it's really important to plan, especially with how the students are going to respond to you and what kind of responses you want from them and how you're going to structure that in your classroom.
Absolutely. And I know you do like a lot of sticky notes on like your curriculum, like maybe not necessarily like scripting it out, but putting sticky notes all within your teacher manual.
Yeah. So I try not to throw any of them away. So I have accumulated quite a lot of sticky notes in the 4 years that I've been here now at Nexton. But I try not to throw them out only because I know maybe this piece will come back to me with this group of kids. I might have a higher group next year and these post-it notes that I left myself, like, hey, these kids can't answer this question, so pose it this way. Or, the next year I'll get a different group of kids where I might have a higher class, maybe a lower class. I remember what my post-its say and where can my post-it guide me for this year. So I don't script a lot, but I do leave myself a lot of notes like, hey, don't forget.
Yeah, exactly. Great. All right. So we're going to start off with like choral responding. So as far as choral responding, there's kind of, you give a clear oral visual prompt, what sound, if you're working on, I'm going to take this. If we're working on like what word, and then you have to do your signal. So that's number, you have to actually wait 2 seconds before you do that. So, okay, listen, everybody, what word?
Cat.
Yes, cat. And then you also like watch and listen to the responses too, because again, and if you do hear a mistake or whatever, you're not going to call up that one student. You're going to, everybody, that word was cat. What word? Yes, cat. Starting over, that kind of thing. And then also following up with those individual turns. So choral responding, different types of signals. I just did a point touch. I know you do.
Choral response, we do a lot of, I'll do just like a quick check-in. We do, whispered in your hand. Is that the one? Yeah. We'll whisper in our hand. I'll ask a question, say, think about this question, whisper it in your hand, and I'll wait. And it's like, say it out loud. So that's an easy way to just quickly get them to like chorally respond to me. And not chaotically, and just, it's a whisper in the hand. So they're not just shouting everything. They'll wait for my signal and then it's say it out loud.
The number talks too.
Yeah.
You do the
number talks. Sorry. I'm just like trying to re-jog my memory here. Sorry.
You're fine.
The number talks will get like, posing a question. I'll say, if you're not sure, put a 1 at your chest. If you're sure, put a 2 on your chest. If you're, what was the other one? Now I can't. I'm like,
you You know it, you don't know it, you need more time.
Sorry, yes. And if you need more time, put a 3 on your chest. This way they're not raising a hand. People aren't, my students aren't seeing everybody else and thinking, well, forget it. Kim's got it. She's the smartest girl in the class. She's not going to pick on me. This way they're comfortable with their answers. They know Mrs. Richardson sees that I need more time or I'm not confident with my answer, depending on what number they have right here on their chest. Nobody else is really looking around to see who has what on their chest because it's pretty discreet anyways. It's a really easy visual for me and a great way for them to feel comfortable with their answers.
And I love the way you vary that, like whisper it in your hand. And also, like you said, when you ask for core response, like if it's, St. Patrick's Day, okay, leprechaun voice.
Yeah. So like in December, I'll try to get cute or in October, I'm like, okay, whisper it in your hand. And when I say it out loud, I'll say it in your best Santa voice, and they love doing it. Or like in October, I'll say it in your best spooky voice. And then I'll give them the signal and then they'll say it. And it's really cute.
I love that. Yeah. Very good. Excellent. And then also like, I know when you make it engaging like that, then you have a lot of kids that do respond, but I know like for me today, I was like, this isn't going well. So I had to kind of come up with a different way to get them to respond. So we do what's called the teacher kid game. So we just kind of put a T and a K and, I heard everybody responding. That's a point for you guys. I didn't hear everybody. That's a point for me. And then at the end, whoever has the most points, I'll let them, have a piece of candy. Or if I win, I definitely get the candy.
You get
for
candy.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a great way to get them to buy in.
Absolutely. And then also just, reinforcing them. I heard everybody, just modeling that positivity for sure. So we kind of briefly talked about response cards, which there's an example right there. Also, some other examples are vowel tents. So like they have them all different colors and they have them on their desk. And then I'll say a word and they have to hold up the card that matches that sound. Also, I have them do partners and then they have to, it's kind of a contest to see who can grab it first. Nice. I can get a little bit wild sometimes, but it's fun. As far as other, ways to engage, if you are having a hard time getting your students to kind of, respond, we do prize envelopes. So it's almost like, let's make a deal.
Yeah.
And okay, if you get the answer right and I randomly call on you, then you get to choose one prize envelope. And then I call in somebody else, they get the second prize, and then calling you again, that person can steal the prize. Now that game, I did that in a gen ed class and it was rough.
I was going to say, I don't know if I,
but I had everybody in that class doing the work. So before, because I'm in there with inclusion, not everybody is doing all the problems every time, but I made sure to know that. I mean, everybody worked hard, but the one girl did tell me it was stupid the other afterwards.
Of course.
Like, it's not true. It was fun. Also, doing yes, no cards, just red and green, holding those up. And then also like we did these today with the sentence types, they had to hold up, I say a sentence and they had to tell me what imperative, declarative, that kind of thing. That goes with our reading program that we do. So lots of different ways to kind of engage and have kids like respond. I did 4 corners today and that went well. I had like 1 signs, 1 foot, 1 yard, none, and 1 inch. And I would give out a measurement and they had to walk to the place that equaled that measurement. So 12 inches, they would have to go to the 1 foot. All right. And I can't really see who's on there. So also after you're doing your choral responding, making sure that you're giving time for individual turns. So that would sound something like, okay, listen, 2 + 2, wait for it. Renee.
4.
Yes, 4. Time for him, and then you would just make sure you give time to, wait time and everything. And also you said that making sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So a while back, when I taught back in California, we had a lot of our coaches going through our room and they loved giving us, it was great feedback that we got from them. And we'd go and sit back down with them. She goes, hey, I want to tell you how many times you gave these kids an opportunity to respond. And she tallies it up. She goes, I want to show you something about your questioning strategy. Do you know how many times that you questioned your students, but called on the student before you asked the question? And I was blown away by how many times I didn't pose the question first. I asked the student, Kim, what is
Mhm.
2 plus 2?
I still catch myself doing that.
And I do too. But after that, like little talk with a coach that we had, it was just, there's so many times that I stop and I think, stop, how am I going to question this? So again, making sure you plan not only for the opportunities for your students to respond, but like, how are you going to pose that question and not say, Kim, what's the definition of force, or,
Yeah.
or gravity, or whatever, 2 plus 2.
Because everybody's like, oh, she called on Kim. No need for me to think about
Yeah.
it.
And then you've lost all that buy-in that you worked so hard to get them ready for,
Absolutely. Right. So writing responses, we kind of touched on that, where we have our whiteboards. I have little mini whiteboards, which I love. Those are so cute.
Those are cute.
And then I have like the bigger whiteboards. Also, they're portable, dry erase portable white sheets. So there's like cling wrap, and it basically sticks on the wall without any tape. It just kind of clings to it. So it's almost like the vertical alignment where the kids are standing and they're writing their responses on this sheet. And that's exactly what, like the Reading Horizons program that I do, that's what they actually have us do. It allows you to really see their responses all at once, because you're walking around obviously and looking at the dry erase boards and everything, but when they're standing, it's a little something different. But it actually came from a book that we're doing a book study on in our school, and it's called Building Thinking Classrooms, and it's specifically for math, but we've used it for other subjects too.
Social studies and science works really well with too, especially with the walks, how Traverse was doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have enough room in my classroom for all of this, so I have to go out in the hallway and then risk our class with emotional disabilities law, so we got to be real careful when we do it.
And also, in addition to the whiteboards that she was showing you, I will say I'll go the cheaper route, and I don't buy them. I have a bunch of sheet protectors at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I put some cardstock inside of the sheet protector, and those are used as whiteboards. And so they always stay in their seat work folder. And so when we're ready for math or science or social studies, or anything like that, I was like, take out your whiteboard. And it's a really easy way for me to get quick and easy answers when we're using whiteboards. Not only that, but when like during math, I know we're going through number lines, or like this week we're on decimals and fractions to decimals. So I gave them an insert. So all they have to do is print out the paper, and I give them the insert to put inside of their whiteboard, and it transforms their whiteboard into a place value chart that they can also, that they can mark up. And you can do a ton of that. I've done it with number lines. You can do it with sentence stems, like little things like that, the response cards that you were talking about that have the ABCD, yes, no, true, false, all that. You can stick those in there as well, and they're really easy to just mark up.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, or mid-year when they get ruined, you can toss them out and you just pull out a brand new.
Yeah, they're cheap too.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I love that.
You can also do on the back side, you can do different colors, and just, you can also say, hey, blues and greens and whatnot. So,
and that brings us to our next slide too, about turn and talk. So how do you work that?
So turn and talk is like at the beginning of the year. I set up my classroom because I want a successful class at the end of the year. And I was like, oh, you do that so well, but it does take some time. So I don't want to like give anybody like false information, like it's going to work right away. You do need to train your class. I think it takes me each year, it takes about a month. And it seems like a long time, but a month is really not that long in the grand scheme of things when your kids it's a well-oiled machine. My kids, when I say A's and B's, A's talk to B's, or B's talk to A's, or you can also not number off your kids, but basically tell your students, half your students you're a red and the other half you're a yellow, or whatever, blues and greens. You can be really, really specific by how you label your kids as an A or B, red or yellow. Or you can just be a little more relaxed depending on how you want to run your classroom. So there's a lot of opportunity for different questioning strategies, how you answer, how your students answer you. A's, I want only the A's to tell the B's this question or answered this question. B's, I want you to turn and tell the A's if you agree and disagree and tell them why. So they're having a conversation about it. And going back to it takes about a month to do this. You want to explicitly teach those active listening skills, because you can tell somebody to turn and talk to your partner.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have not practiced it, if you have not practiced an active listening skill where your body is turned to your partner and you are looking at them, you are listening to them, and you're engaged with them, you're not looking around the room, picking at your whiteboard, drawing on your whiteboard, you are actively listening. And it does take practice. So it doesn't happen overnight. For me, it takes a good month before my students are well-oiled machines.
And they are definitely well-oiled machines for sure. So that kind of brings us to our next slide about how often should kids have the opportunity to respond. So they're saying simple responses like, unison gestures, hand raises, that kind of thing, choral responses, 3 to 5 opportunities per minute. So Jenny had the opportunity to go in and video Miss Richardson, and they actually tallied, or I think I tallied it at that time because I saw the video. She had 9 to 10 responses in 1.5 minutes. So I mean, the pacing has got to be there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Now, for more complex responses like partner sharing, obviously that takes, actually, you were doing partner work at that time, and you still had 9 to 10 responses. So it's definitely possible. But your more complex questions obviously take a little bit more think time, and you'll have a little bit less responses. But
yeah. So that was a math lesson. I think that was recorded. Yep. I believe it was like fractions or something. It was about this time of year, I think. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so it was like a fraction lesson. So that did move a little bit faster. However, if I do the same thing with science, it's more like analyzing the information. What do you think here? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think is going to happen to the roller coaster when it goes down and then goes to stop? What is that kind of energy called? So they stop and talk, and it's a lot more elaboration on their part. And as a teacher, you do want to give them that time to talk, but you will hear when the conversation starts to get quieter. And that's when you need to not interject, but step in and start the news or start hearing what they're saying and have them share out.
Right. And also when you are doing your response rates or whatever, you want to make sure the kids are at least, it says 4 to 6 responses per minute with 80% accuracy. But I think we're looking at more like 90% accurate. Right. Is what we talked about.
Right.
So, and just making sure you're keeping the ball moving. So teacher talk, the kids should be doing the hard work, not us. I know sometimes we feel like we're doing more of the hard work, but they should be the ones doing the hard work. All right. So, and then also varying the types of responses like response cards, written responses, partner thing, just, keeping the defense guessing by varying the pacing and response format throughout the lesson. See what I did there? With
I love that. I love that.
And also making sure that you're moving around and looking at the written responses. I know that I was telling Renee that I did the vowel tense, and I did digraph tense where, they set them on their desk and they all had the same color. And I was like, I couldn't see. I was like, oh, that's not good. That didn't go well. So just making sure, again, having those resources and, preparing for that. Moving around, looking at the written responses, and then also, again, making sure that everybody's on task. Like I just say, that's a point, give yourself a point, and the points don't mean anything, but they like it for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it's cool. Also like Connect Four chips, like they kind of work in teams with that. And at the end, they can play a quick round of Connect Four. They really like that. And definitely the more times that you call on those lower performing students, that really intensifies that intervention. So giving them more opportunities to respond as well.
And keeping them on the hook.
Yeah.
So they know they're not on the hook. They know that you're not just going to, click on Kim, you're going to pick on her. It keeps everybody on the hook, especially with what we just said about the A's and B's. Like they don't know who I'm going to call on. So, but everybody has had an opportunity to share. B's have said something, A's have said something, or reds and yellows, or whatever you want to call them. They don't know who I'm going to choose, but everybody should have had an opportunity to share with their partner. And I'm going to say, all right, I'm choosing B's only. So get your answer ready. So keeps everybody on the hook.
I love that. All right. So we kind of already talked about, circulating, looking and listening, and identifying exactly who needs that scaffolded support. Already talked about that one. So again, learning is not a spectator sport. I mean, I know that you guys are all spectators now, but in the classroom, we don't want that. We want kids playing the game. No bench warmers for us. And then for our feedback portion, I think feedback is like if you're stopping at, giving kids the opportunity to respond. If you're not providing feedback, that's like going up to the basket but not shooting. It's like,
Right.
yeah, it's just you have to provide that feedback, and they need to know if their answers are right. They need to know if they're not right. And also the teacher needs to provide the correct response and have students practice. I've been in some classrooms where no feedback has been given. It's like they're practicing it wrong.
Right.
So, but sometimes that's hard to see when you have so many kids. But
Right. But that's why what you were saying, it's really important for you to move around the classroom and circulate your classroom, especially when, they are having partner talk. Just because they're having partner talk does not mean you get, you're like 10 seconds of freedom. You should go around and listen. I tend to go to my students that I know that struggle and don't like to have the conversation as much, because yes, that happens as many times as we practice turn and talk. There's always going to be someone that is just like, oh, I said it. Okay, I said it. But I'll go to that group and I will say, what'd you guys talk about? I want to know what you're saying, and so again, keeping them on the hook. And what you said about the feedback, like if they do hit the 3, celebrate it. Oh, look at me. Hit the, give them the positive, high five.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, exactly. So we know that providing feedback obviously has that high effect rate. So there's lots and lots of evidence to support that. So let's talk about when students get it wrong, and they will.
They will.
A lot, actually. Yeah. So if they read a word incorrectly, like the word was cat, but they read it as sat, listen, that word is cat. Everybody, what word?
Cat.
Thank you. Yes, cat. Starting over, and then give time for individual turns. So having that script, just, I would say less language, but focus on that correct answer, because a lot of mumble jumble around that is going to get them kind of confused, I think. So, you have anything to add?
Yeah, if I see a incorrect answer, I'm not calling them out and just like pointing at like, Kim, you did it wrong. Not probably. I don't think anybody does that, but I'll ask. I'm like, ooh, I like your answer. Can I borrow your answer? Can I borrow your whiteboard? Can I use your stuff? And most of the time it's a yes, or every once in a while it's like, no. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to use your answer as an example. I'm not going to say it's your answer. They're really susceptible to that. They're fine, So I'll take a correct answer and I'll write it up on the board, or I'll put it under the doc cam, put it up on my slides, whatever. And then I'll put an answer that's not correct. And I'll talk about, hey, which one do you think is correct? And so most of the students will say, hey, 2/3 is correct, and then I'll say, what about this one? Why isn't this correct? Well, this isn't correct because,
And then you also say, like, this one is almost there.
Oh yeah, this one is almost there. What's wrong with it? Why do you think this happened? And within our curriculum that we're using for math right now, which is iReady Math, there's actually in our review pages, there's a question that's always posed, like solve the question. At the very bottom, it says, so-and-so did said letter B was the answer. Why did they give this answer? It's an incorrect answer, and the students all know it's incorrect, but they have to explain why that answer is incorrect. So they're learning why their answer is correct, but also understand common misconceptions and why or how somebody could get it wrong as well. So it's really cool to watch them respond to incorrect answers or answers that are almost correct and almost having it.
Yeah, and it's part of that select and sequence, like when in math, like you want to show like different strategies and things like that,
right,
for sure. So again, perfected practice makes perfect and permanent. Also, feedback feeds back. So that just kind of goes to the script again. And then, like you said, the high five, and Obviously, I think Renee hit on that with not calling out individual students, but if an answer is wrong, or whatever, just be supportive, the sign line privately kind of thing. Also, your feedback also needs to be informative. Like, for example, the writing assignment that we're working on a persuasive essay. And I noticed that my student we just talked about transition words and she didn't have any in there. I was like, remember, we just started, we listed all of our reasons. You did a great job with that. We've been working on adding transition words to help organize our writing. Can you add a transition word before each reason? And then she did. I'll show it to you. Okay, she did it. She did it. Yay. So, yep, she did it. So again, she knew exactly what I wanted. And again, if they'll do it if they know the expectation.
Right.
Also, if you are like walking around and you're noticing like similar mistakes, then you definitely want to stop and kind of make a group correction. Do you find that you have to do that often?
Yeah, I walk around and that's really easy to go around and, if they're on their whiteboards doing whiteboard work, or if they're even having a turn and talk moment, I can stop everything and just say, hey, I'm hearing a lot of this. Let me talk to you more about A, B, and C, because I'm hearing this and this is not really where we're going with it. Or I'm seeing everybody not changing denominators. All this is like fractions and decimals are in my head right now.
Mhm.
That's why I keep referring back
Mhm.
to fractions and decimals. But I'm seeing a lot of you do all these things. I love that you're going there. However, let's bring it back to this and where you really want them. So direct them. If that still doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and start. There's no shame in going back. If your lesson did not work out, you need to go back and reteach it. And there's no shame in that. I mean, even with pacing guides, and I don't have time to do it because it's not going to look pretty at the end, especially because our pacing, all the things build upon each other. You don't want to skip over something and just say, it'll be fine. It's not going to be fine.
Everything's not fine.
Everything's not fine. It'll be, if you reteach it,
then it'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm not saying maybe take a whole day, but go back and fix your mistake or fix any misconceptions and make sure they've got that 90 to 95% accuracy before you move on.
Absolutely. All right. And also, this kind of talks about tracking the implementation. Like, we came in and videoed you, and we tracked how many opportunities. So if you have like an instructional coach or, a team teacher, it's really interesting to see how many times you do give students, an opportunity to respond, and how many times you do give, corrective, positive feedback. So thinking ahead, planning strategies. So if you could choose one lesson or one subject to target to increase your opportunities to respond, what would it be? And then also, what are the 3 different ways you would provide students with an opportunity to respond in that lesson? Will you do whiteboards? Will you do response cards? Will you do gestures? Will you, whatever the case may be? And then also thinking about what help or resources do you need to make this happen? So like the 4 corners, I had to prepare those signs in advance for my response cards. I had to, make sure everybody had that for yours, the place value charts, your sheets and things like that. So making sure you have all the resources available to you and thinking ahead so you're not scrambling at the last minute. We've always
you don't you can't do that lesson, or you can't implement a lot of these things unless you know what you're actually teaching and what you need for the lesson. So plan ahead. Also, it's okay to backwards plan.
Yes.
I don't teach to a test, but I do pull them. I pull the tests, I pull the quizzes. I need to see where the best bang for my buck is going to be as far as how many questions are going to be about adding fractions, subtracting fractions, changing a denominator, not changing, I need to go and see how many that is. Not because I'm not going to do a bang up job on my teaching or anything, or I'm going to leave that out. I just know where I have wiggle room and what I can play more, where I have more time in my schedule to spend on making common denominators versus adding and subtracting fractions, especially if there's only going to be one question about adding fractions on a huge unit assessment. Do I really want to spend that much time, especially when it is a lot simpler for them to grasp the idea of adding and subtracting fractions? What do I want to spend more time on? And you're not going to be able to do that unless you plan, unless you backwards plan. And again, you might think it's teaching to a test, but it really isn't. It's preparing them for what they're going to be assessed on.
Yeah,
So,
and what they're asked to do.
yeah, and what they're asked to do in it. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And plus they have to know like the strategies, and the more they practice it, and it's just good opportunities for,
Yeah.
practice and how, yeah.
Yeah. And then like application as well. That was one of the things I was going to say.
Mhm.
Just applying what they know. There's a few things, there's things that you can spend time on and know that it's not going to be the best bang for your buck, or there is going to be something where it's like, hey, they're going to need to take this and apply, and they're going to use this skill, not just in unit 1, but in unit 2, in unit 3, in unit 4. So I do want to spend more time on these lessons. I do want to take the time and show them how they can apply it, not just to fractions, but later on these different avenues of whatever they're going to see in 5th grade as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I go into push into a 5th grade math class, and whatever you guys are doing, I'm able to say, oh, okay, so they do need to know it, for 5th grade. So
Right.
it's really interesting to see for sure. And so just kind of a monitoring tool, if you do have somebody come in, just to kind of track and tally how many times you are giving opportunities to respond. It's just like a little tracking sheet for your coach or for a peer, whatever you choose. It's not required or anything, but it's really interesting, I think. Sometimes it's not comfortable to have somebody come in, but when you're looking for that feedback, corrective feedback,
Right.
then as a teacher, you definitely want to get better.
Or if you have your school psychologist come in, that's a great person that could tally the
Yes.
data for you, because we love to do those types of things.
That's right. Yes, that's a good idea. Silzer can do that for us.
There you go.
So, the final game buzzer, the post game presser. So just making sure you're analyzing those response. Okay, so where can I spend more time? I'm only having one opportunity to respond in 10 minutes. That's no bueno. So we need to figure out something that, we can improve. I know that you said the observer came in, you said they noticed you just walked to one side of the room.
Yeah. So when I was telling you about the coach way back when, she was saying, did you know you did this? Did you know you did this? She goes, did you also know that when you walk around the room, when you give them independent time, or when you give them time for whiteboard work, do you know you walk to the right side of the room first? It's like, no, I didn't. But then I realized why I walked to the right side of the room. I did have some of my learners that I really needed on that side because I can get to them quickly. And so that was just the first side of the room that I always hit. You really don't notice you do that until somebody either points it out or you see yourself on a video and you're like, oh.
Exactly. And then, so just kind of a review, definitely making sure you're using that data to inform your instruction, master that corrective feedback, be affirmative, formative, creating those opportunities to respond, and correcting errors every single time, memorizing those correction procedures, and continuously practicing routines like that pre-teaching or pre-correction, like remember, answer on my signal, or something like that. So I find I have to do that quite often, and then measure those opportunities to respond and track your correction ratios. And then finally, celebrate. So every successful implementation is a championship run for our students. Slam dunk. Boop, boop. So all this was kind of taken from what Dr. Thomas and the Academic Alliance of South Carolina did in November at one of our ATSI support group sessions. So,
ladies, you all don't give yourself enough credit. You are so masterful, and I truly mean that. In having the opportunity to observe you, Miss Richardson, to take some training videos, I see even what you were talking about with the coaching, how that has shaped your teaching. I could see that, and how you constantly change up how they're responding or providing those opportunities to respond, but also you walk to both sides of the room and you didn't know, I didn't know which way you were going, right? So, I mean, just you hit on so many things about the preparation that it takes. I know, sometimes in our special education programs or in gen ed, we're using scripted programs, and those have a lot of OTRs built into them. And as a school psych who has never taught, I didn't understand really the difference, but that's really to intensify, like you were saying, Kim, that really intensifies our instruction. And so when you're using that in the gen ed classroom with a curriculum, you're building that in yourself. I'm under the impression that that's not necessarily already built in for you. And so that's that preparation of like noting it in your lesson plan of, oh, I've got to make sure I'm building in OTRs and how I'm going to respond when they say it correctly or incorrectly. So that a little
Mhm.
bit more like planning and legwork. Would you all agree with that?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so impressive to watch a teacher to walk in a classroom and it's like you all make it look easy, but when you sit back and look at what it takes to plan and do this, it's really hard work. I mean, at least to get started, you all make it look easy, but it is it is hard work and it takes a lot of thoughtful planning. So I can certainly appreciate that. You all hit a lot. The academic routines that you spend 30 minutes teaching at the beginning of the year, most great teachers that I've worked with would say the exact same thing. You take those 30 days and you teach those routines.
Yep.
Um, and so, great point on that. Just making sure I hit everything I wrote down because I was like, oh, I loved your tip on not calling on the student by name before you ask the question. Such a great tip. Um, Yeah, really great. And then I did have a question for you all, and anybody else that's on the call and wants to
Yeah.
drop a question in the chat. I am watching for any questions, or you can come off mute. But I was going to ask you if you have a student that does not like to be redirected, or if corrected if they get the incorrect answer. I have a personal child that is that way. She doesn't like to be corrected. So, but I feel like what you would say is something like, "Oh, you're almost there. What do we need to add?"
Mhm.
Is that sort of
Right.
what you use for those types of
Right. And
questions?
that's a lot of the time, if you are circulating the classroom, you can quickly see it on somebody's whiteboard and be like, oh,
Yeah. Mhm.
did you meant to put that? And they're like, oh no, wait. And they'll quickly erase their whiteboard and I'll stick around just to see. I'm like, yep, you got it. You were just either thinking too fast or just, whatever the reason was.
Giving them a way out,
Yeah.
save face.
Yeah. So,
I'll say, "Ooh, I can't see that." So it kind of makes
mhm.
them kind of think
Uh-huh.
about it too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that is great. Also, there was something else that you said that just made me, I wondered too about if you all share students and Kim, do you ever pre-teach maybe some questions that she's going to pose
Yes.
later? You do some,
Yes.
I thought that's a
Yeah.
great opportunity for
Yep.
that collaboration between gen ed and special ed,
I think
co-teachers.
right. And I think me going into the fifth grade classroom push-in services or whatever, that allows me to kind of see how things are taught, not necessarily the same thing in fourth grade or whatever, but it allows me to see, okay, this is what they're going to expect in fifth grade. And like I
Hmm.
gave my fourth grade students a fifth grade test question and they were able to do it because, it just followed the same kind of
We're applying it. Yeah.
right,
We're all in
exactly.
that application phase now. And it's like, if you can convert this fraction,
Yeah.
you can do a lot of things in fifth grade with
Hmm.
fractions.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
That's
we
that.
I love that iReady has the iReady math curriculum that we do use. It has, their core instruction, and then they have a place for the math centered activities and then the tools for instruction. Those are the prerequisite lessons that I teach before I try to do it before they go to you. Sometimes it may be after based on my poor pacing, but definitely. And those do help prepare them for the actual lesson, or at least helps it reteach
Right.
it for sure.
Right.
They've heard it, at
Um,
least some of the language ahead of time.
Yes. Hmm. Right.
yep.
Okay. Just
And
somebody's
sometimes
asking
they
for.
tell me, she does it that way.
I'm going to drop in the chat a link to the evaluation for today's session. If everybody, in case somebody's hopping off early, I just wanted to get that out. And I will also put a link to the presentation. Hopefully you all can open that, but if not, let me know.
So can we get a copy of the PowerPoint so I can kind of read the slides? I'm a really fast reader, but
Yes,
I would like to look at them again.
I just
Sure.
dropped that one also in the chat. See if that link works for you. Hopefully that gives you access. And any other questions for these practitioners who do this so beautifully? It is so fun to watch. Honestly, I'd love to walk in a classroom and see just students engaged. I mean, really, that decrease in the behaviors. I didn't, for many years, understand why you worked in, or walked in certain classrooms and you saw students that were actively like hanging on every word of a teacher. I was always so impressed by that, and I have come to learn about these evidence-based practices, one of them being opportunities to respond. And really that's the key to engagement. It's like the number one, I think the number one practice that we can use to engage students in the classroom. And it's all about keeping them on their toes, which you all do so masterfully. And we're so
Thank you.
grateful that you shared
So
your
the Google
knowledge.
Slides are working. Thank you.
Is it? Perfect.
Yes. And it looks like the evaluation feedback form is also working.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much. All right. Well, if you all don't have any other questions for Miss Richardson and Miss Walker, we will let you all go. But thank you for being here, and we look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you all again soon at one of our next evidence-based practice networks.
Thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.